So you were also teaching in Korea, Korea University.
Yes.
When you were teaching Korean students and when you were teaching German students, what difference did you feel?
I think it's a very different experience. And in Korea, everybody's sitting and like... Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you, Stefan. 오늘은 세상에서 제일 친한 친구 한 명을 꼽으라면 친구 스테판을 꼽을 친구예요. 석사 때 거의 같은 주에 들어가서 같이 석사를 하고, 그리고 저는 한국에 이제 군대 갔다 와서 다시 대학원 과정에서 박사 과정을 할 때 또 같이 박사 과정을 했고, 저희가 결혼한 거 아니냐라고 얘기할 정도로 서로 모든 걸 아는 그런 친구입니다. Eigentlich sprechen wir Deutsch, but your German accent is too terrible.
Really?
Really? That's true.
That's true. Really?
I tried to correct his English, but it never worked. Stefan, could you introduce yourself? What are you doing at the moment?
Right now, I'm a professor in usability engineering and interaction design in Coburg University. Social interactions in a virtual environment. So.
Stefan, you sound like a professor now.
You're a professor
I'm a professor too, but I still don't feel so much. I feel more like a student. But now, I was always thinking you are more like a student, but you sound like a professor.
Yeah, but I'm also more like a student, I think.
I know. You were a real professor.
No.
Professor Stefan Sträuber.
Professor Dong Song Chang.
So now it looks like we were just fun people, but actually I have to push his career much more. Working on something from vision to text, text to vision. I mean, when they brought it out as a paper and as a patent, Microsoft, Disney, and Amazon, they all competed to buy this patent, right? It was crazy. So what was that paper or research about?
At this time, it was quite an interesting approach to generate realistic. If you have, for example, a description.
Harry Potter.
Yeah, Harry Potter, exactly. So you have a description of the character in a book, right? But how does the character look like? You know, like
everyone has different imagination. Oh, Harry Potter looks like this. Harry Potter looks like this.
Exactly.
Then you say, write it down, and different people write it down. And if you have it as a big data, taking the text, you can actually generate a 3D model of Harry Potter, how it really looks, right?
Exactly. And it's completely automatic, and you can use it for all kinds of interesting applications. I think, for example, we also used it to study stereotypes in body perception, you know, like the way how you look like, it kind of influences people's perception about you. When I don't look very shabby, for example, then people might think you are a little bit lazy or something, or if you're very tall, they think you're powerful. The biases and stereotypes, we could also use the system in order to kind of uncover the stereotypes, that you become more aware of the stereotypes, and it helps also kind of improving the society in the sense that
he was quite lazy. In terms of programming, he was always so good. When other people needed 2 weeks to do a project, he can do it in 2 days. But even not after 2 days say, hey, finished, because then everyone else will hate him and give him more work. But he says like, okay, I play 10 days and then submit 1 day earlier than the others. He's still smart.
But that was also the motivation why I studied computer science in the beginning, because I think knowing the tools, like, it's really important for doing research.
I mean, in computer science, you know it, the laziest programmers bring the biggest innovation. Because they're lazy, they don't want to do the work themselves, they find really cool solutions. He was one of them. And for the 12 days, he does what he wants. He plays chess with me, he plays ping pong. So I say like, can you do mine too? Can you? Then I can do something for you which you hate. So he hated reading all the papers and journals and summarizing it. Oh, why do I have to read all that? It's like, Stefan, I will read it for you and summarize. You do the programming for me. It's like, okay, it was a great cooperation.
What did you study in your
PhD.
I'm a PhD.
Yeah.
So in my PhD, I studied, I was interested in social perception and specifically how we can read intentions of other people from body language. For example, so if you play table tennis, it's really important to predict what the other person is going to do. And you have some cues, you have like the posture, you have the face, and we, in virtual reality, we could manipulate what you see about the other person when you play. And we made some interesting discoveries that what you're using about the other person actually depends on the social context. For example, if you play cooperatively, you're focusing more on the physical aspects of the task, like the orientation of the pedal and the ball. But if you play competitively, you focus more on the kinematics of the other person, how they move their arm and like where they're looking at and those kind of things. Everybody behaves completely different in different social contexts. If I'm in an interview situation, I'm completely different than if I meet you in a bar, for example, right? Like, or if I'm in a university or at home with my parents. So you always behave differently, and also for simple actions like social interactions, like coordination tasks, it seems to play a big role in which context. So that's kind of what I was doing in my PhD. So I had a lot of people playing table tennis like for hours and hours and hours.
And then we also wonder what did he did in the PhD.
So I mean, he was also interested in a different, in a similar question, like, and mainly we were studying, if I remember correctly, how people coordinate their movements when they are dancing, and also how, from the movement itself, and from the appearance and the movement, how you can make certain social judgments about the other person.
So I was interested in what information we can read out of other people. So it can be something like, hey, cheers, and then stand. But there's a difference if someone does cheers. It seems like just cheers, but in the movement there is already a lot of information about how the other person feels. So I wanted to read the information, what we use to judge other people. Also, whether they are friends, whether they can cooperate well with you, or whether they will be not so good in cooperation with me. And my hypothesis was, you can see it already in the movement. We both were interested in social interaction, and since you cannot program humans, we used virtual reality or virtual humans to study humans.
Yep.
In reality, we love to play ping pong. So because we did experiments with table tennis, only because we loved playing table tennis, and then our advisor said, are you always not studying and playing table tennis? So our solution was make our hobby to our work.
But I think it sounds funny, but I think it's very important also to use your inspiration and ambitions that you have, the things that you find interesting, and take them and put them in the context of research. That's also what I try with the students. Yeah, you don't give them like a master or PhD thesis, but you usually try to find out what they like, because then your intrinsic motivation is much higher than if you get something from outside and then after 3 years you realize I'm not so interested in this topic anymore, and then it's really difficult if you don't have the intrinsic motivation, I think. So I think it's very important in research also to bring your own ideas and your own interests into the research.
So that's a good keyword, intrinsic motivation. I mean, you have to find what makes you happy, what do you like? And often we pursue ideas which the society or your parents or someone randomly assigned on you. You can only be happy if you do this, and if you earn a lot of money, then you're happy. But actually you're more happy if you can do what you like playing table tennis, dancing. If you want to do it, you can always find a way to do it.
And actually there's also some interesting research showing that if you give extrinsic motivation to kids or to students, right? You give them some external rewards, decrease their intrinsic motivation. And if you tell them, okay, I give you like a chocolate if you do this task, then they don't want to do it anymore. So what they actually wanted to do, because they have intrinsic motivation, they suddenly don't want to do anymore. Sometimes it's also necessary, of course. We all sometimes have to do things that we don't like. Study math, we have to learn programming.
Programming.
We have to
coding.
be diligent sometimes, right?
Really?
And
Are you diligent?
of course. You're not?
I am.
Really?
So back now, so you were also teaching in Korea University.
Yes.
When you were teaching Korean students and when you were teaching German students, what difference did you feel?
I think it's a very different experience. So in Germany, the students, they feel always entitled to ask all kinds of questions and interrupt, and
Why?
they don't so like they really argue with
Really?
And in Korea, everybody's sitting and like always nodding and like never, how do you say, contradict with the professor, let's say. There's a lot of respect. And
Was it better or was it difficult?
I think in the beginning I found it good because it's easier for me, right? But then in the end, I think I find it better in Germany because I also like to have a conversation, and it's not good if a student just takes everything in as truth, but it's always good to reflect and to discuss, I think. It's also better for the professor, I think.
But why do you think the Korean students are not asking?
I think they are not used to it, maybe. It's like you have to have a lot of respect for the professor. And I think it's a cultural difference.
I had a similar experience when I went to the US. They get their authority not because they're older or because they're a professor, but it's like in the US, when a professor goes to a room, every student has his knife. It's like, Professor, let's have a fight. And then the student comes, not only one, actually 10 of them, and the professor is like smiling and like, practice more. Oh, he's really good. And then the authority comes. So that's a difference, right? I mean, you were also in the US.
Also, sometimes it's really true that the student knows more than the professor.
Exactly.
And then you also have to be accepting it, I think.
So actually, as a professor, you have the most pleasure not when you win against students, because that doesn't mean anything. You have pleasure if a student actually manages to hurt you. I should change my guard. I was wrong. I mean, that's a really nice moment.
Wow. You learn something new.
Come to my lab. So you were also teaching Korean students for many semesters. You were teaching German students. What difference do you feel the most?
I think the education system is very different in Korea compared to Germany. In Germany, first of all, you have free education and everybody can study. There are some exceptions, like if you want to study medicine, we have numerous clauses, so only you have to have very good grades. But yeah, that's one difference. I think in Korea, we also have this elite university, I think, like Korea University, for example. They are only 1% of the best.
Also Hanyang University.
In Germany, also students like to study and then they like to go traveling, and it's more about like a life experience, I think. It's not so much only about learning content, like the knowledge, but also about experiencing life. Like
This is a bigger historical and philosophical difference. It goes back to the modern university system, which was made by Wilhelm von Humboldt. Because that is an interesting story, but after the Prussian army was always losing against Napoleon, they were thinking, we have to do something, we have to change something. And then they changed the whole political system and everything, but the biggest change was the university system. Humboldt was thinking, the reason why you have to go and study was not about career or earning more money, it was about finding yourself, knowing your life purpose. But the interesting thing is, it looks like a waste, and actually German students take a long time at college, but after finishing, they are actually very productive in work.
I think so,
Yeah.
I think Germany is very different anyway. So right now you have a lot of shortage in workers, like in all kinds of areas, computer scientists.
So Korean students can go to Germany,
Yeah,
find a job.
come all here to Germany.
To your lab, to your lab.
Exactly.
Hey, it was so good seeing you, Stefan.
Good luck.
Next time you come to Korea.